Okay, today we're going to make binding for the Ultimate Beginner Quilt. And what I have done is I have cut several strips. They're 2.5 inches. So I've got one strip here with the good side facing up and another one here with the good side facing down. And we're just going to place it on there. And we're going to use just the triangle ruler here and make a line from one corner to the other corner. And then we're going to go to the machine. And we are going to stitch right on the line. And then we are going to cut it off about 1/4 of an inch. Doesn't have to be perfect because you're not going to see any of this. And then those are how we're going to join the pieces together. Okay, I'm going to join them all and I'll be right back. Okay, we've got all our strips sewn together and now we're going to go through and we are going to press them open. So go through and press all of them open. And you can do that beforehand or you can go through and just press them as you go. I usually just press them as you go. So to make the binding strips, so we have 2.5 inch strips and we're going to fold them in half. And we're just going to go through and press the whole thing. They're going to look like that. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, we are going to add our binding to our Ultimate Beginner Quilt. I just showed an easy version of adding binding, and now this is a more traditional way. So what we do is we're just going to leave a little bit of extra. Doesn't really matter exactly. So I usually just leave about that much extra. And I keep the edge of my binding with the edge of my quilt top. And then when I cut it, when I trim it, Kimberly showed you this in her videos as well. When I trim, I usually leave about 1/4 of an inch on the other side of it. Okay, so we're just gonna, I just go this base, the 1/4 inch on my foot. Mine's a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch on this Juki. When we get to the corner, I take a pin and I mark it in at 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the quilt. And when I get to the pin, I stop, pull the pin out, and then pivot a little bit so you're going to drive it right to the corner. And do a back stitch, cut your thread, then we're going to flip it back this way. And what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of fold it with that. And then it's going to create your little flap there. That's what's going to make your mitered corner. And then I come in just a smidge from the end, maybe 1/8 of an inch. And then I do a back stitch again. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm just going to keep my edge of my binding with the edge of my quilt, leaving the 1/4 of an inch of the batting on the other side. Okay, I'm going to finish this and I'll see you when I get to the end. Okay, I've gone around all 4 corners and I'm back where I started. And so what I'm going to show you is, remember when we started, we left the flap here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get all of this. When I do my binding, there's no particular measurements. So you just want to pick a spot, sew it on there, and then when you get to the spot that you started, then this is what you're going to do. So it doesn't matter what side of the quilt you start at. It doesn't matter the exact amount that this is. We're just going to get to it and then fold it over somewhere in the halfway point and finger press it. Okay, and then this one that's coming this way, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to get it almost to the edge like that, and then you're going to finger press that one. Okay, so now I make myself a little template, and it is 1 inch and 1 1/4 inch. And the reason why I've made a template this size is because it's the exact same size as 2.5 inches folded in half. So your strips, what we're going to do is we're going to cut it off so that so it's the same distance from here to here. So we're going to cut off, we're just going to tuck it inside there. We're going to take just a pair of scissors and snip it off. Same thing on this one. Just push it to the edge and trim it. Usually I make just a little bit of a trim first, and then I try to do a straight, nice trim. This one probably I could trim off just a smidge. Okay, So now the extra, you pull away. And now we've got those two pieces. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to take this and pull it aside, and we're gonna connect these two pieces the same way as when we started. We're gonna take this piece and we're gonna lay it flat, just like when we made our strips. The good side was facing up. Now this one, we are going to, and this is a little bit hard to maneuver because these pieces are close, so you kind of have to just fold some things around. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this strip and we're gonna put it on top of that strip. So the good sides together, just like when we made our strips. And now this time, what we do is, if you see the connection between the two folds, there's a point right in the middle, and in theory we want to connect that point and this point from the folds, but it's really not that technical. You're really just going to take one corner and match it up with the other corner. And like I said, it's a little bit hard to maneuver because the two pieces are connected, so just be patient and pin your corner on this side. And then I usually just make sure it's laying flat and then pin this side. And I try to stay away from the center of it because that's where you're gonna be driving. All right, so we're gonna take the 2 points, and if you feel comfortable, you can, if you wanna lay it flat and make a line with your marking pencil, that's fine. I usually do not. I just back stitch a little bit, and then I just try to eyeball it, make a straight line to where the fold was, and then back to the center. So you're just making a line just like you did when you were making the pieces. Okay, there's the center. And now just try to push the bulk of the quilt back so that you've got a flat surface, and then go to the other corner. Trim your thread, pull out your pins, and don't trim it yet. You want to pull it like this. Make sure that it's going to lay flat, which it does. And then you can take what you've just joined together and just trim it with some scissors, and then take it to the iron. And the ironing part right here is very important because the iron will kind of make some of that excess shrink up, and so that it lays nice and flat so that you can finish your stitch from here to here. Okay, I'm going to the ironing board. Okay, so now we're to the ironing board, and we're just gonna finger press it open. Take your iron and just kind of iron it open. If it doesn't go all the way, you can kind of make it go with your fingers. All right, so I just have it open with my fingers there. And just give it a little tug, just this at first, and get your iron really hot. And if you notice, it just kind of shrunk right up. And if for some reason you didn't get it far enough and you've got a whole bunch of excess, just take it back and make your stitch, make this stitch just a little bit farther in, and it usually will help pull some of that excess. All right, and once we've got it nice and hot on there, it shrinks it up, and then take it back to the machine, stitch it from here to here, and then I'll be right back to show you. Okay, we're back to the machine. I usually just do a little quick back stitch right over where you stopped. And then again, I just kind of give it a little tug. I don't normally suggest tugging, but this part, I do tug a little bit. Okay, there we go. It's on there. And now we're gonna just go to the back to the ironing board and press it. I want to mention that when I do the binding, I sew it to the top. So the top of your quilt is here, and we sew the binding on top of the top part, and then when we fold it over, then we will hand bind it on the back side. If you do not want to hand bind, you can certainly go through and machine stitch, and I'll show you what I do when I machine stitch. I take that end, and so I'm going to fold it over, and what you want to do is first iron it and get it all ironed so that it folds over nicely. And then it should match up exactly with your seam that you just stitched down. And you can use a glue stick with just Elmer's school glue. You can just put a little bit of a glue stick underneath there, and I have one here. And I just dab a little bit of the glue stick on there. and then fold it over. And then if you take your iron and you press it, it will keep it folded just like that and keep it there. And you just want to line it up. And that's a great way. I used to do that a lot when I was first starting. Just put the glue stick all the way down and press it and try to keep it as straight as you can on the line. And then when you go through and stitch it after it's together, you'll just stitch in just a hair on the other side of the line. And that way it will usually keep a very good straight line, and it will look good on the other side. It will keep your stitch along that side. You can also use pins if you do not want to use the glue stick. You can just take pins and you can pin it in a whole bunch of pins, and you're going to need to use a ton of pins if you choose to pin. I'm not a big fan of pinning, so I never really did this method a whole lot, but you just will take it and keep it the same way. Just pin it so that it keeps a line, and the reason why you're doing that is so that the line on this side is even with the line on that side. And then if you've pinned it, then you can just stitch it right on the line, and it'll make a nice clean stitch. Okay, I have the binding all pressed. When I get to the corners, I just put the point of the ironing board inside there, inside the little tuck. That helps make a really pretty miter, and then just fold it over. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that you'll follow me on Instagram and Facebook and come back and check me out again. Thanks a lot, threadgraffiti.com.